welcome back to the Armenian Museum of America. I'm Gary Lind-Sinanian, the curator, and I'd like to discuss some other pieces in our collection with you today. This is a recent acquisition from the Estate of Isabelle Hodgson. And Isabelle collected Armenian art, and this piece here, a wonderful piece, is signed Norikian. We keep files on many of the artists that have been shown at the museum and elsewhere. Some of these files were collected by me, and some were collected by Sona Bogosian in New York, Edward Bogosian's sister, who used to manage the AGBU exhibits in New York City. Norikian himself was born in 1943 in Beirut, and he was very active as a painter in Beirut until 1976, when the Lebanese Civil War broke out. And he had to leave Beirut at the time, and he went to France, and he did many shows in France and other places around the world. These are some exhibits here of catalogs, the pieces made in the exhibit. This is an exhibit that was in Paris of Norikian's work. And this one is one that was in New York City. This is an exhibit that Sona Bogosian had put together. And when I was going through this file and I opened this one, I was surprised. This is an exhibit that we mounted back in 1978 at the museum. And this is before we actually had a building. We used to do some art shows before then. We sponsored a show of Norikian's art right here in Boston. These are other catalogs too. And so with Norikian as an artist, there's a lot of information available. So this is a Norikian work, but this is a very nice piece here. And this, as you can see, there's 4 women. And here's the faces here and the long dresses. This is a gouache. It's missing a couple of pieces, some damage here. And we don't know who the artist is. It says Paul as a signature, but who's Paul? We have no other information about this. None of the relatives know any information about it. So we can't determine who the actual artist is. We hope that we can find out, but as it is right now, I don't know. Or another piece that came was not actually a painting. It was this piece over here. This is a large copper tray to be hung on a wall. Very typical of the Soviet period, probably the 1950s. And pieces like this were made for the tourist trade. But the pieces, though, were usually a lot smaller than this. This is a very large piece. And this is not the kind of thing you just put in your suitcase casually. We don't know how she acquired it. This kind of piece, you'd find it in Armenia if you went to an Armenian restaurant or any kind of public building. They often had objects like this hanging as decoration. The motif is the scroll work, like an illuminated manuscript, and the 4 birds here. Each bird is different as far as the details of the bird itself there. And the spiral in the center, an eternity symbol, very typical of Armenian art. Much of the art is inspired either by the illuminated manuscripts, or nowadays they use a lot of Urartian motifs. But we don't know how she acquired it. So it's one of those puzzlements that we have in the collection. The Armenian Museum is here to share our stories, our history, our culture with the public. The museum is open Thursday through Sunday, 12 to 6, here in Watertown Square at the intersection of Route 16 and Route 20. We hope that you can join us. We'd like to thank Michelle Collegian for sponsoring this series on the objects in the collection. And until next time, stay safe.